Kyle, welcome to the Glenn Beck program. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing, Glenn?
I'm good. So this situation that happened in Provo, Utah yesterday is bothersome on so many levels. And let me start first with the quote-unquote victim, the guy who was making threats. You don't do that. What he did was wrong, illegal, and you would expect the FBI to come in. However, you wouldn't expect them to kill him. So I don't see a good guy here on either side, although I do kind of side with the victim because it was completely unnecessary on what happened. Can you talk me through this?
Yeah, so we have to look at sort of the bigger picture. The bigger picture is this. You can make really bad decisions and get to the point where there's a SWAT team there, and once that happens, a shooting of someone in that scenario can be very justified. And the deadly force policy for the FBI, which is the entire DOJ's deadly force policy, it's pretty specific. The most operative clause there is when the officer has a reasonable belief that the subject of the force, that's the person they shoot, poses an imminent danger of death or serious physical injury to the officer or another person, then that deadly force is justified. They're able to do it. So you can have a justifiable shooting, and I'm pretty confident, I've talked to my buddies who are actually on that team, that this was a straightforward weapon scenario. They were justified in making that shot. But we have that's C, D, and E of the steps of, like he produces a weapon, they have to react to it, and then the guy is dead. That's C, D, and E. But A and B is the decisions of the investigation that went on before it and the decision to send SWAT into this guy's presence. And those can be bad decisions. So we can step further back and see this being a bigger problem. And so even though the SWAT team may have been justified in their shooting, sending SWAT, which is an FBI kind of a standard move right now. They have a whole matrices of questions and concerns for any given arrest operation. Mm-hmm. SWAT is the default position. I used to joke that the guys, because I used to work with the SWAT team in Washington field office. I've worked with SWAT teams in other places as a surveillance agent. We were integral in watching people before they were arrested. And so you would keep an eye on the subject before it happened. So I've done this, I don't know, upwards of 50 times, I would say. I've been in a lot of these briefings. Some of my buddies have been on these teams for a long time. And the kind of the kooky piece of it is that you don't want to engage somebody in a place where they are most likely to be violent. That's not the best course of action, right? So in order to get this guy into custody safely, there are many other tools in the tool belt. But I used to tell the guys on SWAT doesn't stand for special weapons and tactics. It actually is the standard warrants and arrest team, because they are the default position the FBI goes to make arrests. Some case agents they'll never use their handcuffs because SWAT is busy doing their arrests. And that's a default position. That's not good.
So Kyle, here is the thing. First of all, I thought George Floyd, I thought that was all about, and all the march against the police of using excessive force when it wasn't needed. I'm disgusted by this whole thing. And I still believe what the guy did was wrong, and he should have expected the FBI to show up. But they did show up. He's 75 years old. He is obese, 5'4", 300 pounds. He can't get up out of a chair without a walking stick or a cane. He walks with a cane. He's got a blind son who just had a stroke. And you use basically a tank to come in through his front window. I mean, here's the problem. If you wanted to get this guy and make sure that you had him in custody, why wouldn't you take him when he got out of his car at this parking lot of the supermarket? Why wouldn't you take him out, and surround him and arrest him in the parking lot of his church? Why wouldn't you go? He was a member of the church in good standing. He was actually part of the leadership of the church in a small way. He was a secretary to a clerical position. He could have gone to the pastor or the bishop and said, the FBI could have said, look, we have a warrant. We know this guy is old, he's infirm, but he's doing things that are really dangerous, and de-escalate. What they did is they almost guaranteed that this man would die.
I agree with you, and I agree that all those tactics, those techniques you just mentioned, those are in the tool belt and they exist, but the FBI is fundamentally not flexible, they're not nimble, and they're sort of lazy in their thinking. There's an old saying that if you choose your doctor, you choose your diagnosis. In many ways, if you choose your law enforcement tactic, you're going to choose that outcome as well, and you at least put certain things on the table that wouldn't otherwise be there. My old job, I spent 3 years doing this, thousands of hours a year, was called Special Operations Group, but essentially we were a surveillance group that had the ability, because we were armed agents, to do interdiction. And they call it TSI in the FBI, or tactical surveillance to interdiction. And it's exactly what you just said. I grab you when you're pumping gas. We grabbed MS-13 members who might swing a machete at us and we might have to shoot. We grabbed them when they had 2 cups of coffee in their hand because they were going to their construction job at 7 a.m. And that is far safer for the public. It's safer for the subject, and it's safer for the officer. So
what the hell happened? Why would you do that for MS-13, but not for a 75-year-old guy who doesn't mean the things that he's saying? He's just wrapped up in this stupid internet world.
There's 2 possibilities. One is that they're sending the message, and that is definitely a real possibility, and we have to do it. But we can't impugn people's motive without knowing. And the second possibility is lazy thinking, which is that we've always done it this way, and that is a default FBI position. It's like, well, we had 2 agents shot in 2021 on that child pornography warrant down in Miami, and we send SWAT to people that might have a gun, because that's one of the criteria. If they have a dangerous dog, that's a criteria for SWAT. And if they've shared basically that they have negative feelings about law enforcement. And one of the 3 charges that is in that complaint about this guy, Craig Robertson, is a complaint about him making threats to law enforcement. That's the count number 2. It's 18 USC 115, where he basically told the FBI, come back with a warrant, and by the way, I'm carrying a gun. And so they took that as a threat. And look, that's a legitimate threat. His original threat.
I agree.
Those all happened in March. Like you said, bad choices. But you also see that the reason that this thing kicked off and why they went to go grab him was because Joe Biden was coming to the state, and he made a threat to Joe Biden. So we had the final straw was actually 18 USC 871, which is usually a Secret Service sort of prerogative. It just turns out they had this open case from the FBI.
So why wouldn't the Secret Service be the ones to go in? I've done this for 50 years, Kyle. I've reported on crazy stories for 50 years, 47. And I got to tell you, I've not seen this before with Secret Service or the FBI. I've seen them go take people in their house. I've seen them, president is coming in. They've monitored somebody. I've never seen this.
No, you're spot on. And so the concern is let's just do like a little replay, because we all lived through Donald Trump's presidency. Sorry, my wife is pregnant. Well, my wife is pregnant right now. She's about to have a baby, so I have this. I got baby right.
Sorry about that.
But think about this. You've got people like Kathy Griffin that were cutting off the head of an effigy of Donald Trump. You've got Snoop Dogg pointing a gun at a Donald Trump sort of actor. You've got guys like
you have Johnny Depp saying, "Where's the last time an actor killed a president with John Wilkes Booth? Maybe an actor should kill this president." I mean, they didn't bust his door down.
Madonna thinks she wanted to blow up the White House. Okay.
Yep.
So, and did any of those people? And I had people respond to me on social media, and they said, "Well, the Secret Service called them." And I said, I always felt like when the Secret Service called somebody, it's the same as a SWAT team breaking down your window at 6:15 in the morning. It's night and day in the experience of it. And so that is where it feels like it's weaponized, because people are seeing 2 different sides and the way they were treated. And that's troubling. Okay. It should be really troubling to Americans.
All right. So they say he was armed. What does that mean? That he had guns in the safe, or he was holding one and pointing it at a tank, or pointing it at the officers?
Even having it in his hand would make it justifiable. That is an imminent threat. And so they can justify, like I said, you can say that this was a justified shoot and that it was a quote unquote good shoot in the law enforcement context. And
wow, really? Because hang on just a second, Kyle, because I can't do that. If my life isn't truly threatened, even if he's pointing a gun at me, if I don't feel I'm truly threatened by that, it's not a justifiable shooting, and I'll have to go to court to prove that. But the FBI's okay?
Well, it's the way it's taught at Quantico. And so this is maybe some inside baseball for your listeners, but they actually do a scenario where a guy is sitting at a desk. And the reason why is this, and Glenn, this is me trying to be very fair to both sides of it, of which, I know. Like I said, I don't think anybody that was on that warrant woke up in the morning and said, we're going to go kill this guy and here we go, and high-fived it when they were done. I think they're probably devastated. But the decisions from the management tree that made them there in that spot were very bad, and I think they're incredibly dangerous. The scenario that gets taught at Quantico, it's a standard training scenario that every FBI agent goes through. There's a man sitting at a desk. He has a gun on the desk with his hand on it. Okay? You are approaching this guy to give him a subpoena. You get up and you realize he has a weapon system. If you try to talk him down, he is saying he's going to kill himself, but he kills his secretary and then he kills himself before you get a chance to react. And the fact of the matter is all these scenarios, action will beat reaction. If someone has a weapon system in their hand and they have it at low ready or it is their hand in a holster, they can actually shoot you. You can actually draw a weapon out of the holster and shoot somebody if you make that decision before the person who's holding a gun on you can actually react. It's been proven over and over and over again on every level, special operations troop do it. So that's why there's an imminent standard.
I've actually gone through the training, and one of the scenarios is a guy who's holding his girlfriend hostage, and the only way that you win in that situation is if you shoot him first. So I've seen the training, and I understand that. I'm just bothered by what happened here, because I've never seen it before. It's an overreaction from government. It is clear. I mean, right now, if this man were black and a Democrat, everybody would say, "Say his name, say his name." You want to talk about the cities would be on fire. So I'm really bothered by it. And I'm also really bothered by the fact, because I've seen CSI, but maybe the FBI doesn't need to have anybody check on them. Why did they move the body from the house and leave it out on the sidewalk for 2 hours?
So I got two possibilities, and they're both stupid. The one possibility is they moved him out there to work on him in a medical scenario. We set up usually outside of these buildings in what we call a casualty collection point. That's a pretty standard military tactic. So you take people outside of the place where the threat is, you bring them to a safe place, and then you can work on them.
That's acceptable.
That's the most likely thing. I've been a paramedic for over 10 years, and that's what our plan was. You don't really expect to ever have to use it on a subject. It's generally in case one of your teammates is hit. But that may be the plan that they executed. So let's go with that. But why was he left out there? And we're hearing reports he was left out there for hours. And I can't validate those yet, but let's just assume that was. That is basic government and particularly FBI incompetence, because the FBI doesn't deal with bodies. They don't shoot very many people, number one, thankfully. And number two, there's no plan if they did. Like, they don't deal with homicides. That is a local police matter. And so when you have this scenario happen, what the hell do? They don't even know. They're calling, like, how do we get the lab division? Where's the ERT, the evidence response team? They're probably trying to do everything right and, do the federal thing, dot the I's and cross the T's, but they're screwing up and they're leaving a body out.
Maybe that's why, did they involve the local police, or did they call 911 after they shot him? Maybe that's why you would have the local sheriffs. Yeah, that's why you should have the sheriff's department and the police department there, because who's watching the bad guys? Who's watching the bad guys? If this guy is bad, great. If the other side is bad, we should know about it, and that's only if we have an independent look at it. I mean, this really, really bothers me, and I'm not defending him. I'm really not. He's known in the community as being a lovable teddy bear kind of guy, but he got wrapped up in his internet persona and did stupid things. But they've already met this guy. They've been looking at this guy forever. He's he's threatened the president. He says he's going to get into a ghillie suit, and a ghillie suit in a car park surrounded in cement, and he's 300 pounds and he walks with a cane. What Bush walks around with a cane? I mean, it's ridiculous the way this was handled. And I hope it's not swept under the rug. Kyle,
unfortunately, just because they do. This is not the side that people get outraged about, unfortunately.
I thank you, and I hope I'm not unfair to those good FBI agents, but it's high damn time voices like yours are not so alone. It's high time that the FBI says, you know what? This was a horrible error, and I'm not going to be a part of this. I'm sorry, but we didn't make this decision. They did, and it was a stupid decision. Somebody needs to pay for it. Sorry, Kyle. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, Glenn.